Wait, what? Did Mendeecees just say what I think he said? Baby, Kirk's name shouldn't even be that close to his private business, let alone his… You know what? Let's unpack this. Because in one of the most jaw-dropping scenes in love and hip-hop Atlanta history, Mendeecees just dropped a bomb that left the entire cast and the entire fan base speechless. Cameras were rolling, vibes were tense, and then Mendeecees leaned forward, looked into the void, and said it loud. He got an obsession with my penis. Yes, you heard that right. And the he in question? None other than Kirk Frost. Fans couldn't believe their ears. The cast blinked in silence. And Kirk? Baby. The man froze like a mannequin. But Mendeecees didn't stop there. He kept swinging, throwing. Shade about Jasmine, talking entanglements, and then hitting us with the line of the year. It's not my penis, it's my presence. Chile, I had to pause the video and clutch my pearls. So now the streets are asking, what's really going? On with Kirk, and why is he so pressed? Don't worry. We've got the full breakdown. And trust me, you're not ready for what comes next. When the cameras came on, everybody thought it was going to be just another typical tension-filled sit-down. Scrappy was halfway joking. The energy was light. And even Mendeecees seemed like he was in chill mode. But you could see something boiling under the surface. The way his eyes narrowed when Kirk's name came up. The way he didn't laugh with the rest of the group. Oh yeah, something had been sitting heavy on his chest. And baby, he was about to let it all out. It all started when Scrappy tried to break the ice by asking Mendeecees if he and Yandy were actually married. Like, legally. Not TV married, not love and hip-hop ceremony married, but signed on the dotted line, state of New York recognizes it married. And Mendeecees? He smirked, laughed it off, danced around it like it was nothing. He looked down, cracked his neck, and then finally said, Bro, why everybody so pressed about what me and my wife got going on? That should have been the first clue that something was off. But Scrappy pushed, like he always does. And right when it was about to get awkward, boom, Mendeecees switched gears. He looked straight ahead and said, Nah, see what really getting to me ain't the blogs or the comments. It's Kirk. The room went quiet. You could hear somebody's bracelet jingle as they adjusted their chair, because no one expected that name to come flying out of his mouth. Not like that. He said it with his whole chest. Kirk been talking slick, behind his back, around his name, and most of all, about his relationship. Mendeecees said Kirk been in his business more than the fans. And Rashida? Apparently she been chiming in too. Mendeecees said he was tired of the fake smiles and backhanded comments. Tired of pretending it was all love when behind closed doors Kirk was making jokes, asking questions, and letting Rashida throw shots on camera like it was sweet. But then it got wild. Like, unhinged wild. Mendeecees leaned forward and hit the room with that now viral line. Man got an obsession with my penis. I ain't never seen nothing like it. Everybody froze. Scrappy's jaw dropped. The producer in the back coughed off camera. And nobody knew if they were supposed to laugh, be offended, or just pretend like he didn't say that. But he doubled down. Said Kirk been watching his every move, questioning where he go, who he with, and why Yandy's still with him. Why you watching me so hard? He asked. You my woman or something? And when nobody said anything, he just shook his head and added, It's scary now? I'm starting to think you want to see it. The way he talk about it. At that point, everybody was too stunned to speak. Even Scrappy was like, Yo, I don't even want to hear about no old man duck talk. And Mendeecees? He laughed a little, but you could tell this wasn't just a joke to him. He was serious, tired, fed up. Said he thought him and Kirk were dogs, that they had each other's backs. But now he sees Kirk letting his wife drag his name, asking shady questions about Yandy, and making everything a topic when it's not their place. And then came the Jasmine stuff. Apparently somebody told Mendeecees that Kirk was mad because Mendeecees was messing with Jasmine. Yeah, Jasmine. As in Kirk's old flame, baby mama, and years-long headache. Mendeecees looked at them like they were crazy. He said, Why would I want his leftovers? Straight face. No smile. Just facts. He said, He think I can't get the main course? And that's when everybody started murmuring. Because Now it wasn't just about Kirk talking too much. Now it was about Kirk being threatened. Mendeecees said Kirk walking around acting like he the man, but always looking sideways at who Yandy talking to or what's being said about him. He said, "I'm not trying to compete with you, bro. I'm not having no PSS contest. I'm not in that kind of race." But even after all that, he still wasn't done. He kept going, calling Kirk out for being bitter and weird, said, "This man more focused on where my dak go than his own damn marriage." Whew. And when somebody tried to calm it down, saying, maybe it was just the pressure, maybe Kirk feeling the heat, Mendeecees hit them with the coldest line of the night. "It's not my penis, it's my presence." Dead silence, like funeral home silence. Because that wasn't just shade, that was a straight up read. He said he walks in the room and people notice, that he don't gotta do too much. And that's what really bothers Kirk. Not Jasmine, not Yandy, not the blogs, but the fact that Mendeecees still got the kind of energy Kirk wish he had. That aura, that calm confidence, that real man energy. And maybe, just maybe, Kirk been watching too close because deep down he envies it. What really had folks gagging, though, was how calm Mendeecees was while saying all this. Like he'd been sitting on it for weeks, months, just letting it simmer until he couldn't take it anymore. And the fact that he aired it out on camera? Chilly. He didn't care about no friendship contracts, no VH1 brand protection. He was speaking his truth and letting it burn. Scrappy tried to lighten the mood, cracking a joke about not wanting to hear about Nobody's Johnson on a Monday afternoon, but it didn't land. The mood was too thick, too raw, too exposed. You could see the producers in the background trying to figure out if they should cut to commercial or just let it ride. But Mendeecees wasn't finished. Not even close. He said this ain't just TV drama. This real life. This his family. His name. His wife. And while he don't care what the fans think or what the blogs write, he's not gonna let no grown man keep playing in his face. Especially not one who preaches loyalty and marriage values on screen while letting his own wife stir up mess about other people's unions. He called it hypocritical. Fake, said Kirk, been acting like a pastor in public and a petty teenage girl in private. And that's when the room really shifted. Rashida wasn't even there, but her name stayed coming up. Mendeecees said she always got something slick to say about Yandy, whether it's on camera, in the glam room, or backstage before filming. Little jabs, little comments, always pretending it's just jokes, but they land like daggers. And Kirk? He just sits there and lets it happen. Never checks her, never defends his so-called friend, just watches it all go down like it don't matter. What made it worse, Mendeecees said, was that Kirk acts one way in private and a whole other way when the red light comes on. Behind closed doors, he's buddy-buddy, all love, giving advice. But soon as it's time to film, he's talking wild, smirking at shade and letting Rashida take shots like it's open season. And Mendeecees? He's done. He said he'd rather stand alone than smile in the face of someone fake. And just like that, the entire vibe shifted. Scrappy looked uncomfortable. One of the producers whispered something to the sound guy. The energy in the room went from, "We're filming a scene," to, "We might need security." Because once Mendeecees got rolling, there was no pulling him back. "Let me know when you're ready for the next part, and I'll keep going right from where this left off." Scrappy leaned back in his chair, tapping the side of his cup like he didn't know what to say next. It was rare to see him speechless, but even he could feel how real things had just gotten. Mendeecees wasn't playing. He had pulled every layer back and dropped every ounce of politeness. And the way his voice never cracked? That calm, low tone he kept the whole time, that made it hit even harder. Because it didn't sound like rage. It sounded like a man who had been holding too much in for way too long. Mendeecees kept his eyes forward. Didn't blink. Didn't stutter. He said he watched Kirk smile in his face for years, give him advice, act like big bro. But behind that smile was envy. And behind that envy was a need to compete. Not just for attention, not for TV time, but for validation. And when that validation didn't come, Kirk started finding other ways to bring Mendeecees down, like weaponizing Rashida, like repeating little rumors, like making shady jokes that ain't never feel like jokes. He said it all started slowly. The first season back on set, everything felt cool. But as soon as Yandy got more storyline, more glow, more screen time, that's when the tension began. He said he caught Kirk throwing glances, letting out those fake laughs that say more than words. And he noticed every time someone asked about his marriage, Kirk was always there with a question, a comment, or a smirk. It was like clockwork. And Mendeecees kept telling himself to ignore it, to rise above it, to stay solid. But when it started, spilling into scenes, blogs, and backroom whispers, that's when he knew it wasn't just a vibe, it was a setup. He turned to Scrappy and asked, "How would you feel if a man kept talking about your relationship like he's sleeping in your bed?" Scrappy didn't even answer. He just rubbed his face and shook his head, because deep down, they all knew that line had been crossed. And then Mendeecees brought up something no one expected. Apparently, Kirk had reached out to Yandy privately. Dom, late night, said he was concerned about her, that he felt like she was putting too much into a relationship. That didn't seem stable. Mendeecees said Yandy showed him the message, but didn't want to make a big deal about it. Tried to let it go. Said maybe Kirk was just looking out. But now, with everything else going on, that message hit different. Now it looked like manipulation. Like Kirk trying to play both sides. Like he wanted to chip away at their foundation, little by little until something cracked. Mendeecees said, "How you claim to be my boy, but you going behind my back planting seeds in my wife's head?" He said the disrespect wasn't loud. It was sneaky. And that's what made it worse. Because if Kirk had come out and said how he felt to his face, they could have settled it like men. But instead, he let it fester, let it build, and then acted. Like he was shocked when Mendeecees finally snapped. It wasn't just about the penis comment. It was about everything that led to that moment. The buildup, the betrayal, the fake love. Mendeecees said he ain't even want to go there, but he had to. Because if someone keep pulling on your name, you gotta respond eventually. Not to the fans, not to the blogs, but to the man standing across from you pretending he care. He went on to say that Kirk been moving funny for a while now. Said there was a time last year when he got wind that Kirk was trying to get Jasmine back on the show, not for storyline, but to stir the pot, to see if Mendeecees would take the bait, to create chaos in his home. And when that didn't work, Kirk flipped. It started acting like he was the one being targeted, like Mendeecees was trying to interfere in his situation. But the whole time, it was Kirk orchestrating the drama behind closed doors. And now he had the nerve to play the victim? Chilly. Scrappy finally spoke up and said, "Look, man, I don't know what y'all got going on, but this shot at feel deep." And it was. Deeper than most of them realized. Because Mendeecees wasn't just talking about a friend crossing the line. He was talking about trust being shattered, about loyalty being one-sided, about watching someone pretend to be your brother while secretly hoping you fall. He said the worst part was knowing Yandy had felt that energy too. She kept quiet for months, tried to stay classy, tried to avoid being pulled into the mess. But every time Rashida would make a comment about their fake marriage or question Mendeecees' loyalty, Yandy would come home tight-lipped and drained. She didn't want to fight fire with fire, but Mendeecees could see it eating at her. And it made him feel helpless, like he couldn't protect her from the shade being tossed behind her back and to her face. He said it started affecting their home, the constant rumors, the speculation, the fans asking if they were still together, producers pushing them for realness on camera. And through it all, Kirk and Rashida sitting pretty, acting like they had the perfect formula. Mendeecees said he couldn't take it anymore, and that's why he finally let it out. He also revealed something he hadn't told anyone. There was a meeting a few weeks before that scene was filmed, producers, cast, and crew, behind the scenes. Someone had brought up the idea of a confrontation moment between Kirk and Mendeecees, a sit-down, unresolved tension. And Mendeecees said he agreed at first, thinking it would be professional, adult, something they could squash. But then, he found out Kirk had already been feeding little sound bites to the producers, dropping hints that Mendeecees might be hiding something, that he wasn't being authentic with Yandy. And that's when Mendeecees realized it wasn't about resolution, it was about ambush. He said, "You set me up to look like a liar, like a cheater, like some slick-talking fake husband. And that's what hurt the most. Not the cameras. Not the internet. But knowing that someone he once broke bread with would turn his real life into a reality show stunt. As the room sat heavy with silence, Mendeecees took a breath and said, "I ain't perfect. I never said I was. But I handle my business. I take care of mine, and I don't need no man watching my every move like I'm some damn soap opera." He added that he wasn't even mad about the jokes. Say what you want. Laugh it up. But when you start getting in my marriage, when you start having your wife talk reckless while you sit there silent, now you playing with my legacy. Scrappy nodded slowly. He understood now. This wasn't beef. This was betrayal wrapped in years of fake friendship. And once Mendeecees pulled back the curtain, there was no going back. What happened next would take things even further, because just when you thought the truth had already been spilled, another layer was about to unfold, one that involved secret texts, old flings resurfacing, and a shocking confession that caught everyone off guard. And this time, the tables were about to turn in a way Kirk never saw coming. It started with a look. Just a look. Mendeecees paused mid-sentence, leaned forward and dropped his voice a notch. Scrappy shifted in his chair, already sensing that whatever came next wasn't going to be light. And he was right. Because what Mendeecees said next took the tension to a whole new level. He said Kirk wasn't just stirring up trouble with Rashida, or planting seeds about his marriage. He had also been talking to someone else. Someone from the past, someone who should have stayed gone. Jasmine, Mendeecees didn't even hesitate, said her name like he'd been holding it in for weeks. Apparently, Jasmine had reached out to him a few months back. Nothing major at first. Just a DM, something casual, friendly even. Said she was trying to clear the air about some stuff Kirk had told her. Said she didn't want to be part of any drama, but she felt like certain things needed to be said. And what she said, Mendeecees said it nearly made him flip a table. Because according to Jasmine, Kirk had told her that Mendeecees had been checking in on her. That he had questions about her current relationship. That he was asking around to see if she was single. All lies. Complete fabrication. Mendeecees said he had never once asked about Jasmine, never once looked her way, and had no interest in revisiting any of that mess. But Kirk made it seem like he was lurking, like he was playing behind the scenes. And Jasmine, whether naive or manipulative, believed it. Mendeecees said, "What kind of man uses his baby mama to bait his own friend into scandal?" And he was serious. This wasn't TV drama to him. This was a violation. He said Kirk knew the streets were watching, knew the blogs were hungry. And instead of protecting him, Kirk served him up, made him a headline. And for what? Clout? Control? Or was it deeper than that? Scrappy sat up straighter. He was no stranger to messy women and reckless friends, but this was something else. He asked, "You think Kirk trying to break you and Yandy up?" And Mendeecees didn't even blink. He said, "I think he wants to see us crack, not because he hate us, but because he hate that we survived what he couldn't." That line hit hard, because everybody knew Kirk and Rashida had been through hell and back. Infidelity, outside babies, public humiliation, and yet, here was Mendeecees and Yandy still together, still looking strong. Even with the flaws, the rumors, the shaky papers, they were standing. And maybe, just maybe, that triggered something in Kirk. Mendeecees said Kirk kept measuring their marriage like it was a scale, like he was keeping score. Who's more loyal? Who's more real? Who's more liked? And when the scoreboard didn't favor him, he started moving funny, saying slick shot, dragging old names into the mix. And the worst part? Acting like he was doing it out of concern. He said Kirk had this fake mentor energy. Always talking about how to keep your woman. Always giving unsolicited advice. But never once looking in the mirror. Mendeecees said, "How you gonna tell me how to love my wife when yours don't even trust you at the grocery store?" And it was like a gut punch, because everybody in the room knew the truth behind that. He went on to say that Kirk thrives off dysfunction, that he's most comfortable when things are chaotic. And when Mendeecees and Yandy didn't fall apart after prison, after drama, after the long-distance stretch, Kirk didn't know what to do with that. So he started pulling strings, whispering, poking, hoping something would finally explode. And now, it had. Scrappy tried to keep things cool, saying maybe it was just ego. Maybe Kirk felt replaced, like the spotlight was fading and he needed to stir things up. But Mendeecees wasn't buying it. He said this wasn't about fame. This was about energy. When you walk in a room and people listen, some dudes get inspired, others get intimidated. Kirk ain't inspired, he annoyed. He also said something deeper, something that had Scrappy squinting and nodding slow. Mendeecees said, Kirk ain't used to being around men who don't need him, who don't fear him, who don't beg him to co-sign they moves. And that made sense, because Kirk had spent years on this show being the blueprint, the elder, the voice of reason, at least in his own mind. But now there was a new energy in the room. One that didn't need approval, one that didn't kiss the ring. And Kirk couldn't take it. And then Mendeecees dropped the real bomb. He said there was a production meeting, off camera, private, no mics. And during that meeting, Kirk allegedly said, "We gotta bring some heat this season. Might be time to expose some stuff on Mendeecees." Like it was strategy. Like he was some character being written into chaos. And when someone told Mendeecees about it, he was done. He knew then that there was no friendship left to protect. No bond worth saving. He looked at Scrappy and said, "I'd rather be alone than eat at a table where the knife already under my seat." That was it. No yelling, no dramatics, just facts. And that's what made it even more chilling. He also said Yandy had been quiet too long. She didn't want to believe Kirk and Rashida would move like that. She thought they were solid. A power couple, someone to relate to. But every time she tried to connect, Rashida would turn it into competition. Who wore it better? Who handled their man better? Who bounced back stronger? And Yandy, she didn't play those games. But now she sees the pattern, the slickness. The way Rashida always smiled when Yandy was hurting, like it was entertainment. Mendeecees said he's not here to protect fake peace. Not anymore. If you talk about me, I'm gonna talk back. If you question my loyalty, I'm gonna question yours. And if you try to break up my family, I'm gonna break the silence. The tension in the room was so thick you could feel it in your throat. Scrappy wasn't even sipping his drink anymore, just holding it, nodding, letting Mendeecees speak. Because this wasn't about a petty disagreement anymore. This was betrayal on a personal level. A wound that couldn't be bandaged with an apology or a quick group hug. And Mendeecees, he said he ain't looking for resolution. He looking for distance. I don't need Kirk to like me. I just need him to stop acting like he do. He said the worst kind of snake is the one that smiles. And right now, Kirk was grinning wide, with venom on his tongue. He ended that moment with something that sounded like a warning, not just to Kirk, but to everyone playing both sides. He said, "Don't use my name for your plot. Don't drag my wife for your arc. And don't ever think I won't speak up just because I've been quiet." He said silence is a choice, not a weakness. And when he chooses to speak, it's because the truth needs witnesses. The room was still. No music, no cuts. Just raw air and tight faces. And even though the cameras were still rolling, nobody moved. Nobody wanted to be the one to break that moment. Because everyone knew the damage had already been done. The trust was shattered. The lines had been drawn. And next time Kirk tried to speak, he was going to have a lot more than just fans watching. Even when the cameras finally cut, nobody moved. It was one of those moments where reality TV turns into real life and everyone in the room knows they just witnessed something that won't be fixed with a staged apology scene next week. Mendeecees sat back in his chair, not smug, not angry, just clear. His message had landed, and now it was out of his hands. Later that day, word started to spread, producers whispering, crew texting each other. Someone had already leaked what went down to a blogger who was on set shadowing the production team. They didn't even wait for the episode to air. The quote hit the timeline by midnight. "He got an obsession with my penis." And just like that, chaos. Fan pages exploded. Meme accounts had a field day. Twitter was a battlefield. And Kirk? Suddenly, very quiet. He didn't post, didn't comment, didn't clap back. Rashida went live once, pretending nothing had happened, showing off a new wig and a skincare product. But the comments weren't letting it go. Everything she said was drowned out by fans asking, "Why your husband so worried about Mendeecees' private parts?" It was embarrassing. The kind of public drag you can't pay your way out of. Mendeecees didn't say much after that. He let the clip speak for itself. Yandy, though? She posted a photo of the two of them, captioned "unbothered, unshaken, unmatched." And baby, the internet lost it. Some said it was shady, some said it was classy, but all agreed it was a message. And Rashida saw it. You could tell by the way her next post was a subtle, "real women fix each other's crowns" quote that sounded more like a sub than a statement. But the drama didn't stop online. Behind the scenes, Kirk was in damage control mode, calling producers, asking if the footage could be softened in the edit, trying to frame the conversation like it was a misunderstanding and not what it clearly was, an exposure. Mendeecees wasn't interested in softening anything. He told the crew straight up, "Air it as it happened. If y'all want to be real TV, then let's be real." And they listened. As word got back to other cast members, the opinions started rolling in. Carly Red said she always felt Kirk was jealous of how calm Mendeecees moved. Scrappy told someone on the team he respected how Mendeecees handled it, and that he wished more men would speak up like that. Even Bambi, who rarely jumps in mess that's not hers, allegedly told a stylist, "Kirk gotta learn how to mind his marriage." But the most surprising reaction came from Spice. She hadn't been in the room when it happened, but once she saw the clip, she reposted it with laughing emojis and the caption, "Not the Doc Chronicles Chile." Shady and accurate, because by now, the scene had gone viral. And not just on love and hip-hop pages, everywhere. Even blogs that don't usually cover the franchise were picking it up. It was too wild to ignore. Kirk eventually responded, not with a video, not with a post, but in a confessional interview that aired weeks later. He sat there trying to play it cool, saying Mendeecees misunderstood his intentions, and that he never meant to disrespect him or his marriage. But you could tell he was uncomfortable, stiff, picking his words like he was walking through a minefield, and fans weren't buying it. The comments lit him up. People saying he was deflecting, others saying he was embarrassed. And the worst ones, fans questioning his own relationship, asking why he always seemed to be more invested in other people's love lives than fixing the mess in his own house. It was brutal. And for a man like Kirk, who prides himself on staying low-key, solid, this was the kind of attention he didn't know how to handle. Back in the group, Mendeecees had pulled all the way back. Not petty, not vindictive, just distant. When they saw each other at the next cast gathering, he didn't speak, didn't nod, just walked past Kirk like he didn't even exist. And that silence, it spoke louder than any on-camera read ever could. Even Rashida looked uncomfortable, like she knew there was no fixing what had been broken. People around them started to notice the shift. The fake laughs were gone. The group dinners were awkward, and the production team, they were loving it. Because for once, the drama wasn't manufactured. It was real, raw, and unfiltered. What hurt Kirk the most, sources say, wasn't the backlash. It was the fact that Mendeecees didn't try to fix it off camera. No texts, no calls, just silence. And when Kirk did reach out through a third party, Mendeecees gave a simple response. "I said what I said. That was it. No explanation, no walk back, no kumbaya, just truth." Some folks tried to blame the producers, said they instigated the moment, that they were hungry for ratings and played both sides to stir the pot. But if you ask Mendeecees, this moment had been brewing for years. It was just waiting for the right trigger. And when Kirk made it weird, crossed that line, and brought another man's body into conversation one too many times, it was game over. What made the fallout even more intense was how fans started turning on Kirk and Rashida as a unit. Not just because of the scene, but because of the history. The cheating, the baby mama drama, the times Rashida looked the other way, the fact that even after all that, they still had the nerve to critique someone else's love story. It felt hypocritical, And fans don't forget. Meanwhile, Yandy and Mendeecees stayed quiet. No clapbacks, no live rants, just a few posts showing them living life. Matching fits. Vacation photos. A video of Mendeecees dancing in the kitchen while Yandy laughed in the background. It was soft, effortless, and most importantly, it looked like peace. Something money can't fake, and production can't script. And Kirk? Well, he faded to the background. Tried to switch focus. Started posting more about music, old memories, throwback energy. But the comments kept dragging him back. No matter what he posted, someone would remind him. Why are you watching another man's duck, though? It became a punchline, a hashtag, a tattoo on the season's storyline. But the message had been delivered. Not just to Kirk, but to anyone watching. Mendeecees wasn't the one to be played with. He might be calm, he might move low, but cross a line with his name, his wife, or his manhood. And he will gather you publicly, gracefully, and with zero hesitation. And the way he did it? No shouting, no clout chase, just truth. Delivered with the kind of precision that cuts way deeper than shade. By the time the reunion rolled around, the tension was still heavy, people wondering if Kirk would show, if Mendeecees would even acknowledge him, if Rashida would keep the same energy. And when they were finally in the same room again, the producers tried to stage a moment, bring it full circle. But Mendeecees wasn't interested in closure. Not when the damage was still fresh, not when trust had been buried. So he sat there, cool, collected, and silent. And that silence said it all. So now that everything's out there, no edits, no filters, no fake piece for the cameras, what happens next? Kirk exposed himself in more ways than one, and not a single apology or explanation has made it right. Mendeecees came with truth, with presence, and with the kind of confidence that don't need backup. And the silence? That wasn't shade. That was power. Because when a man knows who he is, he doesn't have to argue about what he's not. Yandy stood by her man, calm and collected, while Rashida tried to pretend like the whole world wasn't side-eyeing her household. Fans are still buzzing. Blogs can't stop replaying the clip, and even the cast is walking on eggshells. Because once someone says the quiet part out loud, once someone exposes what really goes on when the cameras stop, there's no one hearing it. So here's the real question. Is Kirk really jealous, or did he just lose sight of who his real competition was? Was it ever about Jasmine, or was that just a distraction from the fact that Mendeecees got what Kirk pretends to have? Respect, peace, and a woman who don't need to be embarrassed to love him in public? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Mendeecees out of line, or just overdue? Should Kirk have responded at all, or did silence make it worse? And do you think Rashida had a role in the mess, or was she just caught in the crossfire? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you never miss a drop from us. Because baby, if you think this was messy, just wait till you see what happens next.